been a chef for 55 years. I left home in 1949, and when I left home was a restaurant where my mother was the chef. So the peregrination of the chef through the century have been quite fascinating, actually. I mean, in the 18th century, you had people like Masselio or Menon, other great chefs, and then the chef kind of died and came back, certainly in the 19th century, Carême, and in the beginning of the 20th century, Escoffier. But there has been those times when chefs are really on top and chefs are really at the bottom. When I came to America in 1959, the cook was really at the bottom of the social scale. At the Pavilion with Pierre, part of Local 89, it was the cook, the dishwasher, everything together. There was no difference between one and the other. So on the social scale, certainly any good mother would have wanted her child to be a lawyer, a doctor, an architect, but not a cook. Now we are genius. So, we've done a lot.
Monsieur Meade, we want to thank you so much for taking such good care of Daniel. No need for letter now. His family is here.
I am his family.
Monsieur Meade, I mean, we want to take him...
I'm sorry. It's just...
We're going to do a classic pâte à choux, and as you know, the pâte à choux can be extended to many, many different types of dish. Very easy to do, invaluable in the kitchen, one of the best of the basic classic technique, you know. I had worked for the French president, and I had never been on a magazine, on a newspaper, on any of this. This did not exist at the time. No one told you to come to the dining room and applauded when you came in, as it is now. It just did not exist, period. So I didn't really realize the potential of working at the White House. I had done that type of work. I didn't want to do it. But Howard Johnson, on the other hand, I would learn about production, about marketing, about American eating habit. I worked with 3 chemists, chemistry of food, and many other type of things. In fact, when I left Howard Johnson in 1970, I opened a restaurant on Fifth Avenue called La Potagerie, which was a kind of mass production, kind of glorified cafeteria, you know, with beautiful soup and all this. I would do 150 gallons of soup a day in 3 different types and do production. I would never have been able to do that if I hadn't had the training I had at Howard Johnson.
Things have changed. However, what hasn't changed is that when you get into that business, you do it for love. You know, we talk about getting into. I was excited when I was working at Columbia for many, many years. I thought it was very prestigious to be a professor at the university or in a place like this. And after a while, and certainly when I was at BU for many years, living day to day and learning about tenure and about all of the backstabbing and problems that you have in education as well as then I thought that I would go back to the kitchen. It sounds more friendly in many ways. You know? You go into the kitchen because you love it, and that's what we tell the students here. You do sweat a lot. You work Saturday, Sunday, you work holiday, you know, and you don't really make that much money. And basically you have varicose vein by the time you're 40 years old. But people love you. I mean, when you come, people smile. There is no political implication in cooking. There is no, racial implication in cooking. There is no religious implication in cooking. People see you and they smile. You're bringing pleasure. So what we do is really love, and it may sound a bit corny, but you always cook for the other. You always cook to give pleasure to someone. And it's a great thing to be, and to spend your life at doing.
The cooking is the art of recovery, the art of compensation or adjustment. You do a roulade, chocolat, you start rolling it, start breaking, then you cut it into strips, you pile it up and you say, that's the way I wanted it anyway. So, often this is what you do in the professional kitchen. Now, if it's totally black, forget it. So, but the greatest success, I can't remember, but certainly very often, I remember one time when we did the classic French cooking, the Time and Life series, was in 1964. And Craig wrote, but I went there to do the dishes with Pierre Frenet, but mostly I went to do them. And one day they asked me to come, and we were doing pomme gaufrette and pomme soufflé. The pomme soufflé are those slice of potato that you put in 2 different types of oil, and by shaking it, you form a little bit of a skin on the outside of shell of the potato, and the center of the potato become cooked and develop some steam and start pushing. But then since you have a bit of a skin on the outside, it doesn't escape. So you get those potatoes, dip them into very hot oil, and it separates. The two sides of the potato, it's like a balloon. And usually, depending the type of potato you have, different type of the year, you may have on 10 slices of potato, 6 which work and 4 who doesn't work and so forth. And sometimes more, sometimes less. I went there and I think I did 100 slices of potato. And I did it and I didn't have one which didn't work. I was totally flabbergasted. I couldn't believe it. Except there was no other chef except me, so they were writing the account. No one even paid attention to. I would have liked to have some other chef around to say, wow. You know, so you have things like that which happen. But even when you cook, you know, when you cook yourself, you know, I mean, at the risk of sounding presumptuous, you know, pretentious, after 20, 30, 40 years in the kitchen, you can always bring it to a level at least that it's eatable, you know. But between that level and superlative cooking, there is a great deal of difference. And sometimes, even by yourself, you do something and you really eat it just right for yourself. And sometimes you're very happy with yourself, whether the other people realize it or not. So, you know, you have those type of satisfaction, which is great to have, you know.
If heaven exists, what would you like God to serve when you arrive at the pearly gates?
This is the question for your last meal. You know. What would the last meal be? I don't know what my last meal would be, but I know it would be very, 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 very long. It has to be the last one.
I thought for sure you would say champagne and caviar.
I'll have champagne and caviar too.